What's up, Coachable family? Welcome back to the Coachable podcast. So glad you're here. I'm so glad I'm here. I'm so glad you're here. We have my dear, dear friend, my assistant, my COO, my right hand, my just ride or die bitch in the studio. She's always here. You just haven't seen her yet. And today is sort of our coming out of the closet moment because Nikki is not just an integral part of making this show what it is, but she's an integral part of my life and my journey, and a supportive pillar in allowing me to be all that I am. And so it makes perfect sense to have her on this side of the camera today and just sit down, talk about what's been going on in our lives. We might giggle, we might cry, who knows what's going to happen, but I'm really excited about it nonetheless. So, Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I have been here for almost all the shows since we've been here in studio, so it's a wild experience being on this side of the desk.
Yeah, how you feeling?
I don't know what to expect, so it's interesting being in this seat for the guest, the interviewer.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot just in sitting here in this chair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you have seen this show become what it is since we started in this studio.
Yeah.
You've been with me through a lot. I'm curious just to know, like, what has working for this show and working together meant for you? What have you learned so far? Like, because I know I sort of threw you into the deep end when we started working together. I was like, okay, first of all, you guys, Nikki is one of these people that has many talents. She's extremely skilled in many things. She's a Jacqueline, a Nikki of all trades. And so it's hard to label her as one thing because she's so many things. But also, when I met her and got to know her and then started spending time with her, I was like, yes, we're going to be friends. And like, I need you just in my sphere and orbit and world. Like, how can we work together? And since then, we've been trying to figure that out in terms of like, what do you do for the business? Because you do so much. So what has it been like for you being on this team and on board with this project that we're building?
It's hard to even bring it to words, but it's been incredible. I think, I've had a lot of people in my life say I'm skilled at a lot of different things, and it is hard to describe like what it is that I do or how I do it. I've had, people say, you need a Nikki in your life. Like there's no way to really label who I am. And I've never had a position or worked in a team where it was so synonymous with like life in general, like the journey that I'm walking through, the journey that, I'm seeking. And it's been incredible to be surrounded by a community in the guests that we have on here, in being in close proximity to you, in being close proximity to, the industry of, just the walk of life that we're all trying to kind of figure out and go through. And I feel like it's the first time I've ever kind of felt that synergy of, I wake up every day and what we're working on together goes so hand in hand in what we're literally living through in the day to day. And that's so relevant for our life right now. And I don't know that I've ever been in another position where I've grown so much just as a human because I've had such close proximity to growth tools, opportunities, like human beings that I wouldn't otherwise be in such close proximity to. And it's been, I think, the biggest almost like takeaway, I guess you would say, it has been watching the way that you lead and the way that you lead yourself, the way that you lead the business, the way that you lead me, and vice versa. And that has been really powerful because, I said this on an Instagram post that I said yesterday, but it's one thing when people tell you something. It's a completely different thing when you watch someone do it. It's like Nike, just do it. Like so many of us are stuck in the telling other people what to do, especially in the industry of podcasting, coaching. There's so many people out there that are like, this is what you should do. This is how you should do it. And it's been incredible to work in close proximity to someone that says those things and then goes and does them and like lives those. And that's a true testament to you and the human that you are. And that's just been incredible. I mean, I've seen firsthand, but I've also seen, the podcast reviews that come in, the stories that we get in our inbox, the clients that you have one-on-one, and hearing all of their stories just like really backs up my own experience and what I've experienced on the other side of this desk.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, like when she talks about we're in close proximity, girl, we are. She lives across the hall from me.
Yep.
So literally she could open her door and there I am. So we spend a lot of time together. And when you spend that much time with any human being, you see so much about them. You get to know a lot about them.
Yeah.
And I think in the podcasting, in the personal development world, in the age of social media that we're in, it's really easy to see what people put out there and think they know you. Right? And think you're actually getting a glimpse of what somebody's real life is like. And to some degree, you might be getting a look into their life, but it's surely not all of it, right? And you and I have a unique relationship because it's very personal, but it's also professional. And you see what no one else sees in terms of how I live, how I lead, how I show up or don't. You know, like you, of all people, have an front and center, first row, like sneak peek into like, is she talk about it or is she really about it?
Does that make you feel like you're always on? Like you're always on?
No.
You're always working?
No. I think it, for other people, it might lead to that. I think I'm not going to say finally, I'm in a position in my life where I feel the power of congruency and alignment in the sense that this doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean I don't screw up. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that I always get it right. But I'm living in more alignment in the sense that I have less tolerance for my own bullshit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we can all like say the right things and sound good on social media or even on this show. It's a whole nother thing to live, like you were saying, to live it, to walk it, to be it.
Yeah.
And regardless of if you were that close to me or not, this is how I'd be living my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's just how I'm choosing to move throughout the world. But that's not to say there isn't power and there isn't, I don't benefit from having you close because it is a built-in accountability structure.
Yeah. Gentle reminder.
It is. And I think one of your superpowers that we've kind of identified as we've gotten closer is like your innate ability to hold space for me, just personally.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know, it was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What is a space holder? How would you describe what that means for our personal lives, but also in the business?
Ooh, great question. I think a space holder is somebody that makes you feel safe and makes you literally feel safe in a way where you can expand and be all that you are. So when someone holds space for you, there's a level of allowance, there's a level of acceptance, there's a level of curiosity that is honestly just kind of like energetic. It's shown in your presence, in the way that you're present with them, the way you hold that attention. And this obviously you can do for friends, you can do for strangers, you can do in a room full of when you're, leading breath work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think personally well, let me start professionally. I think that I truly believe that like you are the only you, and that's your power. And I love holding that space for people in allowing people to discover what that even is, because so much of the world tells us, oh, you can't desire that. You can't want to do that. You can't have that dream. There's like so many things in the world, so many people in the world, so many ideas that are telling us that we can't be or achieve or create whatever it is that's on our heart. But I believe that if it's on your heart, because it's meant for you to create. It's not on my heart, but that's because I'm not the one that's meant to create it. So I love holding that space, especially for you and in this business, and being like, what do you want to create, and allowing whatever it is that comes to you to really be able to come out. And because that's the first step in anything that you create, is the acknowledgement that you even have that desire.
Yep.
And I know that I've had the desire to hold the space for other people, because it's almost like the one thing I felt like I never had growing up was that acceptance of you're allowed to want to create that in your life. You're allowed to want to bring that to life. You're allowed to like doing that, whatever these things may be. There's just always a sense of like stifling. I don't know what the word is, but just this suppression feeling.
Yeah.
And I've come to love to create that space for other people.
Yeah.
And that shows up a lot in the business that we do. I think that's one of the things that is hard for people to label me, because like we don't really have positions in the workforce that are called,
Oh yeah.
a space holder.
Because you, as much as you hold space, you also, one of your natural gifts is being able to extract the maybe unknown and make it known. You're able to ask the right questions of me to make me search within myself, so then it gets extracted from me that I didn't even, you know what I mean? Maybe I haven't even been able to articulate, or haven't been able to fully form that idea or that thought. But also, so there's that piece of it. And I think that comes, you mentioned that might stem from childhood and not having that space for you, because one of the things that you do so well is you do what David Meltzer says. He says, be more interested than interesting.
Yeah.
You're so interested. You care.
Yeah.
And this is what I would invite other people listening to the show. Like because Nikki's a very powerful human being in her presence, in the way she carries herself. She doesn't have to be the loudest person in the room for you to know that she's there. And when you interact with her, you feel impacted by her presence. And it's because you embody, you care. And what I want people to hear from that is like, dare enough to give a damn.
Oh, yes.
Like, and that requires you to be present. It requires you to get out of your own, like, thinking about you and how do I look and how am I being perceived and am I interesting and do they like me? And that's how much so many of us try to go out and create what we want by making ourselves look and be or be perceived a certain way. And you're like, I'm here. Like, talk to me. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? How does that make you feel? And all of a sudden, I feel so seen. I feel so important. And what I've realized, and this is new over the last couple months, is one of my love languages and the ways that I feel most loved and most taken care of is feeling like someone is interested. Like,
you matter.
That you matter.
Yeah.
That you're, for this moment, like, I am so enthralled with what you have to say about this. Like, and that is felt through presence.
Yeah.
We could even not be talking, but it's like, yo, I'm here.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful.
Yeah. I want to tell you about my morning.
Yeah, tell me about your morning.
I walked in here and you were like, wow, you're glowing.
Mm-hmm.
And had a great morning. I've recommitted myself to my fitness journey and health journey, which was awesome. That's how I started my day. But I have met these two new friends. They're a couple. And that's a whole other story. And I met them at a coffee shop exchanging a charger.
Yeah.
She needed help. It was the craziest way to meet somebody. But they're two of the most incredible, unique human beings that I've met in a long time. And we sat down and I participated in a matcha ceremony, matcha tea ceremony.
You love matcha.
I do. I recently discovered it. Love it. But I have been so intrigued about learning how many ceremonies they hold in their life. And a lot of people can be confused about what ceremony even means. In our society here in America, like, we don't share that many things that include ceremony. But in a lot of cultures, there's ceremony around tea. There's ceremony around the way you wake up, around dance, around all these things.
We think of it as like you're getting married,
Yeah.
or your baby's getting baptized, or you're dying, or something.
And like you said about the curiosity piece, I've just been so curious about these human beings. When people meet, our natural reaction is to ask a lot of questions, usually because we're curious, but oftentimes it's out of a deflection of like, if I ask you questions, you won't have time to ask me questions.
I don't have to talk about myself.
And maybe that's a little bit of how my curiosity started, but really, these people fascinate me because they're so rooted in what's important to them. And I find that so curious because nowadays a lot of people are maybe fleeting or don't hold strong in what's true to them, what's important to them. So when I meet people with that presence, you hold this presence in a lot of different ways. Yeah, this conviction of, I'm rooted in who I am and what's important to me. I just want to know more. I find it fascinating. And one of the things that, we talked about was, I said, it's been such an honor to meet the two of you and be in the presence of your groundedness in who you are. And they were like, on our side, it's so powerful to feel so seen and safe in the presence of someone that is so curious about our life, because we've actually been met with a lot of, oh, you're weird, or that's weird, or like, they just have not been seen in these things that are so important to them. And I come in and I'm like, tell me more. This is amazing. We participated in a couple different like little rituals that they do and the way that they kind of start their morning. And it was so beautiful to witness. And I think that gave me more energy in being curious about what was going on in their life, what was important to them, than I ever could have received by just being like, oh, let me tell you about me and let me share. It was so energizing to receive in that way by being curious. And I think that's what I love so much about holding space for people is I would have never learned about any of these things. There's like 4 different ways to even drink matcha. He's like, do you want it this way or that way? I'm mispronouncing all the different ways. And like, I learned so much, and it's only noon this morning.
I know.
It's incredible.
It is. It is. And I think we live in a culture and in a society that's so disconnected from what truly matters and what's really meaningful. And that's why when you meet people who are actually connected to their values, even though they might be different from yours, they know what they value and they live it and they practice it and they're open and willing to share it with you and educate you. It's beautiful. It's symbiotic. It's this, it feeds as you learn and listen, you are receiving, you know what I mean? You think you're giving of your time, but you're really like getting so much in return. And that's the essence of, that's the benefit, that's the gift of being present and being just an open channel and just not being attached to how I think you should be or how I only like how I do things or how I run my day. It's like, oh, a friend of mine, she wakes up in the morning, she's like, one of her prayers or like her affirmations is, I can't wait to be surprised by life
Ooh, I
today. Like, what
like
is life going to
that.
surprise me with today? So I love that so much. And that, I think that's one of your superpowers, but also practically in the business. And I think this is important for people to know. Like, obviously I run this podcast, I speak, I run events. Nikki helps me with all of those things. But practically speaking, you guys might look at me. I don't know if you do or not, honestly. I'm assuming this. On some level, you're like, oh, she's like, she does this. Like, she knows what she's doing. She can handle it, blah, blah, blah. I just want to be real with people for a second, because there was a recent event that I spoke at. It was a very exciting opportunity for me, um, at a venue that we were super excited for. And the day before I was supposed to go on to speak, I was experiencing a lot of imposter syndrome.
I
And
remember this.
I
Yeah.
want to share this because I am committed to pulling back the veil and like actually being real. Because it doesn't serve me or serve any of you for me to pretend that I'm something I'm not.
Yeah.
So the night before, I'm like, how can I get out of this? Like, this feels like a lot of pressure. This feels like a big responsibility. I don't know if I can do this. I'm scared. What if I mess it up? Why, I was really in my head like, I don't know. I'm feeling like I just want to hide. I want to run away from this, because what this opportunity is asking for me is to step up, to step forward, to step further into my purpose, to my calling, to who I am. And there was this part of my internal, like my ego that was like, run. So I didn't even share that with you that day. I don't think it wasn't till like, I think we're like on the way there, like in the parking lot.
I think it was after.
I'm not sure. But during those types of things, Nikki is always like right there with me. She always has usually a list of, what do we need? Do we have everything? Do you have a change of clothes? Whatever it is, and everyone's coming into this room. We're getting set up with our mics and everything, and you can tell
I'm on the other side of the room.
Yeah, I'm like in a tizzy. I want you to like share your experience of this, but yeah, I was my heart and my head were not in the same place. I think is a good way to say it.
Great way.
And I can feel this in my body. And now you're so attuned to me, when I'm in these states. But like I was very much in my head, and I had to speak. And I'm only at my best when I'm leading from my heart. And so I'm like almost just lost. I'm like sitting on the side of the stage.
Great way
like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know. Should I be on stage yet? Should I not? And Nikki comes over through the crowd, because there's like a lot of people in this room. And I can't remember what you said to me. I want you to like tell your experience, because this is another example of holding space. Yeah. And I need you guys to understand that people who do things at a high level, they don't get there alone. You're not successful by yourself. There is no way that the people that you look up to, you listen to, the people that write the books that you read, or the shows that you, whatever, they didn't get there just because they were born that way. Okay. So I want you to share your experience of that, because this is really an important way that you hold space, and that maybe other people can start to identify for themselves. How can I be there for the people I love most?
Well, to give even further background of the situation we were in, there was a lot we didn't know about how the day was going to go. We didn't really even know what the room looked like. We didn't know what the stage was going to look like. We didn't know how many people were going to be in there. We kind of went into the room blind, like 10 minutes before, you're supposed to go on stage. And so going in, me being in my position and having to be, I am trying to think 10 steps ahead about any of the possibilities that could happen, make sure we're prepared for anything that's happening. And so having such little information, I have a toolbox in the back of my mind of like anything that could go wrong, anything we would need. And so, we're in the room, we're getting the mics on, like you said, and I was on the other side of the room. Because, we had invited a lot of people, so I was talking to some of the people that we knew in the room. But I'm never losing my eye on you. And I could literally watch the disconnection happen. Everybody has a little bit of nerves. I had a little bit of nerves coming and sitting here today. And so, that's what I saw at first. I'm still talking to people, and I saw it evolve into this like almost dissociation.
Yeah. Fully.
It was like, I'm in this room, I'm in my body. I don't know really what I want to do next. And it wasn't like a panic. It wasn't anything like I was like, oh my God, I need to run over there.
But I was like closing in on myself.
And you like literally with your eyes. And again, this is across the room, but it's like an energetic thing. When you really care about someone and you hold space for somebody, you notice those little nuances.
Shifts. Yeah.
And I just kind of noticed you like drift off into this like dissociative like space. And that's when I, politely kind of like walked away and came to you. And I think I like put my hand on your arm or something. And my first intention was like, let me just ground her and see like where she's at. Cause it looks a little bit like she's floating in space right now. And I just looked at you. And I think the first thing I said was, do you want to take a breath together? Or do you want to like pray or something? And you looked at me with these like big eyes and you were like, yes, like I do. And it was that, honestly, the look that you gave me back was like, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
Because like I pulled you out in that instant, pulled you back to like, oh, okay, I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And, we sat there and we did a couple breaths and we said a little prayer and set an intention. And, we're sitting on the steps of the stage, kind of behind the speaker box, and people are getting situated in the room. And the audio guy comes over and gives you the mic or something like that. Oh, he asked if we wanted 2 mics on the stage. And I then turned and looked at him with the big eyes and was like, no, like just one, like I'm just one. And then you looked at me and were just kind of like, there was this like, please
come with me,
please be with me, kind of look. And, the part of like Nikki, like me, was like freaking out that you were looking at me with this like, please be here with me. And then the other part of me was like, if that's what I have to do to hold space for my friend and this human that I love, I will do anything. And we got on stage and I honestly just sat there like the whole time. And, it wasn't awkward like she was speaking on the stage and I'm just randomly sitting here. It was, we were doing breath work and we were walking through some things. But that was my experience on that side.
It was so powerful for me for many, many reasons. Obviously, on a personal level, it was healing. I don't think I've maybe said this directly, but it reinforced a story that I've been working to reprogram, which is that the people I love are there when I need them.
Ooh. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big one for you.
It's a really big one.
Yeah.
Like I can feel the emotion there because it mattered.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it really mattered that you showed up for me, that you saw me, that you stepped up, that you took action, that you, for me, it's like you went to battle on my behalf in the sense that you just said like, I'm here, and that's sometimes all we need. Is to feel like we're not alone.
It's so true.
And I'm just so grateful for that. And then the byproduct of that was it's you putting your hand on me. It was like this invitation for me to come back to the moment and to show up in the moment and to be all that I am. And then but it was also an invitation for you to step further into your role. And everyone benefited. Everyone in that space, because immediately I could get to the place I needed within my own heart and show up and serve from that space. And it ended up being so powerful. And I remember people coming up to us after,
Yeah, they did.
and not just talking to me, but talking to you too,
Yeah.
and saying how much
Yeah.
they appreciated your presence up on the stage,
Yeah.
because it was felt,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, just like you said, the kind of the healing that it had for you personally, one of the girls came up to me and, you know, thanked me for our synergy together, because she said that she saw the way that we were there for each other and the way that we kind of played off each other, and that she noticed that and loved the kind of dynamic between us. And mind you, again, I was not speaking.
Yeah.
I didn't speak one word. I think I waved when you like introduced me.
you.
I had no idea what to expect. I didn't say one word, but it was really just me sitting there holding the space, moving through the breath work and the exercises with you. And she just loved that like dynamic and was able to see that energy. And I think that, just like you said, it's a great representation of somebody just like being there.
Well, and it's what makes anything work, right? It's like, not everyone is, it's like the body of Christ. When you, in the Bible, it talks about like somebody's the arm and someone's the leg and someone's the mouthpiece and someone's the ear. It's like we all play an executive role and have a unique function in that makes up the whole. You know, whether that's in relational dynamics and work environments and family, and it's like, do we know our role, and are we willing to be all like step up and fulfill that, and be in service of each other and a greater mission that we have intentionally agreed upon, that we all care about. And I think that's what makes the work we do so fulfilling, because we're in agreement about that. You know, we're in agreement about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and why it's important. And it's not just about me. It's not just, oh, I'm doing this. I am always saying, we did this. We did this. And sometimes it's like, well, Tori, you grew that following. But I get no like greater joy than sharing it with people, you know? And so that's what it kind of looks on a business side. But also, like, you and I personally have different ways that we process and things that we enjoy, but we have a lot of things in common too. And even recently, as of late, I've been moving through a lot personally, and have really been stepping up my practices to help support myself when I go through things, just like all of you. The things I tell you to do, I try to practice myself, and you get to see. And so part of one of my practices recently, because I know this about myself, that I can get in my head, and I'm best when I'm in my heart. So a big part for me is learning to ground. And so I've added Hape. It's a plant medicine. It's a non-psychedelic plant medicine, very rooting, grounding medicine that I've started to use as a way to ground deeper into my meditations and into my body, and to become more present. And recently I was kind of leading myself through that. But I just called from the other room and I'm like, Nikki, like, I need you. Can you come and just like lay your hands on me and just hold me for a minute. Just like just hold my legs, just like make sure, let me know that you're here. And those things, I could give countless examples of the way that you support me and hold space. But I think these are relevant for people because they sound small in some ways. It's just like, oh, you have to get, for me, it's been a journey just to even get to the point where I call out when I need help.
Yeah. For all of us, it's so hard to, because you offer an opportunity for rejection. You offer an opportunity for a deeper wound to be created. And it takes an immense amount of courage to actually ask for help and to put yourself out there in that way. And but on my end, I love to see when people, because I'm a projector in human design. And so my thing is waiting for an invitation. I'm powerful, but I wait until people invite me in to like release that power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's been a beautiful part of our relationship, is because you are willing to offer invitations.
Yeah. Yeah. And as much as you said, as calling out or asking for help is creates an opening and is a doorway to potential rejection. It's also the same doorway that you have to walk through to healing
Yeah.
and to being met and to
Mhm.
being allowing someone to show up for you and allowing someone to meet your needs.
Yeah.
So it requires the same level of courage to do both. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And what is so healing and so beautiful is getting to the point where the types of people, the people that are safe to call on.
Yeah.
And then allowing yourself to benefit from all of the magic and medicine that comes from having supportive partner or friends or family or whoever it might be, to just be there with you. Yeah.
Well, I think a really big thing I want to point out too is I show up in these ways for you also because of that curiosity. We've had conversations and I've gotten to learn what's important to you.
Mm.
And I've gotten to learn what your love language is and what matters to you in terms of the way that people around you show up. The same that I would ask my partner or my siblings or anyone that I love about, I ask of my friends. And when it's like I get to create this toolbox for everybody in my life, and I've gotten to learn what matters to you and what's important to you. And one of the biggest things that we've talked about is presence means a lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
The way that people show up and the way that they spend their time and are present in front of you. And I think everybody has a different definition of what presence is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really are present with someone, there's no way to describe it. It's only felt.
It can even be as small as like last night. I got a bee in my bonnet. I wanted to go I wanted to go sing karaoke.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend and I just like sent texts out to our friends, and people showed up and people came and people said yes to that invitation. Nick being one of them, who's in our control room right now.
Had some team bonding.
Yeah, we had team bonding, and I was like, come do this thing. And they said yes. And their presence was felt.
Yeah.
And that not that I'm keeping a list in my mind, but that checks a box for me of being like, oh, you take the time, you care, you want to be around, you know what I mean? So as I think oftentimes we think about learning how to speak our needs and get our needs met in romantic relationships. That's a big topic that we talk a lot on this show, but just in general. But friends, using your voice, learning how to become discerning about who's safe, who deserves that level of access into your life, who deserves to get to know you at that deep of a level, isn't just reserved for romantic partners. Yeah. And what's beautiful is that you and I hope this is not just a one-sided thing on my end, but are learning and being able to get even more comfortable and familiar with what do we need and how do I ask for it.
Yeah.
And now we have, I know I do, have greater reference points for what I'm looking for, from somebody else. Yeah. Because I know it's possible. Yeah. Because I've had it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on my end, I think our relationship has been so healing too, and in professional ways and in personal ways, and for almost the same thing, which is crazy. Presence means a lot to me too. And I've had a lot of situations in my life where I've been told that my presence is so powerful, but there's been this belief that's created that I'm not worthy of the same. So like I may be able to show up and hold space and be present for people, but it doesn't mean that I can receive that same thing or that anyone can hold that same level of presence or same level of space or whatever it may be. There's just this belief that I've created from relationships in my past, whatever it may be. And you do the same thing. And so that's what's beautiful is our relationship has become this synergistic like cycle of just like showing up. Yeah, it really has.
It's like it feeds, we both feed it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I think that that's come from us both being vulnerable to a point. And sometimes by accident, because of our close proximity, we're just kind of like there in those moments.
Yeah.
But slowly over time, you know, it's built to, on both ends, just have this level of trust. And I think for, you know, anybody listening, it's scary to offer yourself in that way to the people around you, but the most beautiful, special, amazing moments in my life have come in those spaces. And yeah, like you said, I feel like we underestimate how powerful friendships can be. But also not friendships. I'm thinking about like on the professional side, you know, a lot of us in the world, like we have coworkers, we have people that are like only our friends at work. But, you know, I invite you to go past that, you know, have a deeper conversation at lunch, like invite them to happy hour, like whatever it may be. There's the humans in our vicinity. Like you said, even Nick, who's here, like part of our podcast crew, you know, we've hung out outside of work, and it's like these people, these humans are around us. How can we integrate more as humans and connect?
It doesn't have,
like,
we don't have
care.
to set these hard boundary lines
like,
where it's like, oh, this is professional, and like we don't go there. It's
they're
like,
at work.
I want to know you for you, not for what you do for me.
Yeah.
Like I care about you as a human. And honestly, I enjoy your presence. So like, why does it have, you know what I mean? Obviously there's professionalism.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. But I think we get to transcend
Yeah.
the limiting constructs that we've been told this is appropriate and this is not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're like,
who decided that?
Who decided that? And at least in our, you know, the culture that we are creating in our home, in this business, hopefully in the show, and is that like you're welcome here.
Yeah. You said to me the other day, I had like a breakdown in the car, and it was this incredible revelation that I still to this, like, I don't know, this was a couple of months ago. Actually, it was the same day as the story that we just told, this event that we had. Yeah, it was. It was on. Okay. No, maybe it wasn't. That was different. Never mind.
But I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, we were literally sitting in the car. How many of y'all done this? Like outside of the house, like literally just sitting in the car. And I just started going down this rabbit hole of like trying to get to the bottom of something.
We were like unraveling.
Yeah.
We were like, there was like this thing, energetic, emotional block, like belief that is like, if you think of like a ball of yarn, and I think I just picked one little string and I started like pulling on it, just like with a question. And then she sort of like started unraveling it.
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, it's that extraction process. And like you held such amazing space for me in that moment when like, you know, we had something to do or whatever, but we just sat in the car and you showed me your presence. Yeah. You asked me these questions. And at like the bottom of it, like the bottom of the yarn of the conversation that we got to was, I'm so glad you're here. And I like lost it. Like I just started crying, and it was this deep like inner child cry of like, that's, sorry.
You have some water?
Yeah.
It's okay.
It was this deep inner child cry of like, I needed to hear that. And I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that and how important that was and how much of a healing simple phrase that was. And it comes down to presence of the phrase, I'm so glad you're here, is like, I'm present with you in this moment enough to acknowledge your your existence, your presence in front of me. And also that like, I care about you in this moment. And I like said, I'm so glad you're here to myself, which was incredible. But then hearing it as well of like Nikki today and you as Tori is just glad that I'm here was just, I really needed to hear that. And it was so healing.
It was. I think it was like for you hearing that and being able to say that and receive it helped to heal for all the times you didn't feel like you belonged.
Yeah.
Or that you
We're
were
wanted.
wanted
Yeah, in that space.
in a space
in that moment.
where you felt like
Mm-hmm.
an outsider. And what I was helping you to see is like you are not on the outside. Like
Yeah.
you are an integral part of what makes this a place we all want to be. And your presence is not just like needed, it's celebrated. And it's like, it's important. And to be able to like let yourself hear that. And this is something we can give to ourselves all the time. It's like, what do I need to hear that I haven't ever heard? You know, like, what is the thing I'm longing for that I don't even, and typically it's underneath all of these other things. You got to dig for it.
Especially the more you suppress, like the older you get, the more you find yourself suppressing. I mean, how many times recently in our conversations have you asked me a question? I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you know, it's there. It's almost like this faint whisper that you have to really tune into.
Because if we ask ourselves, what do you think that's about?
I don't know.
And it's I think we've been trained to say that for many reasons. One, we don't have to go there with this person. We don't have to be honest with ourselves or this person. I used to say, sometimes I'll say I'm fine because you don't actually have deserved to know, you know what I mean? What's actually, or I don't have time to actually get into it or whatever it is. But in this type of space that she and I have kind of curated, and I usually ask for permission, you know, when I try to step into more of my space holder coach role, because we try to delineate between like, we're just hanging out and being friends. But like, if you want me to step into that, like I will. And sometimes we say, I don't know, because it's easy. It's a cop out. It's like, I don't have to actually think. I don't have actually feel like,
or I don't have to face it.
If
I say it out loud, I'm acknowledging it to not only myself, but to another human that has the potential to hold me accountable for that. And that's terrifying.
And we're like, if I am honest, if I say this, what does that mean going forward? What does that mean about how I've been living and that I've been ignoring this truth, you know? And it's confronting because it brings things to a head, and you're like, it's an invitation to walk into a new reality, a new timeline, a new shift things. And some of us, we're not ready for that, you know? But I always encourage people, and Nikki was just this example for this one, but it's like, if you're struggling, if you're confused, if you're feeling lost, and you're like, why am I feeling this way? Or, you know, I don't know. I also like to say, like, well, if you did know, what do you think it would be?
Oh, yeah.
If you did know. Because the truth is, most times we just haven't gotten quiet enough. We haven't gotten still enough. We haven't had the space. Either we haven't curated it or we haven't had a safe environment. It's like, I do know.
Well, I love that you asked that question, because I always feel your presence when you ask me that question, because it's like hey, you're safe to actually find this answer. You're safe to actually go look. And it's such a gentle reminder of, you know, but what if? Like, if you did know, what
do you think would come up?
Yeah, like it's and you say it in such a way where it's like a little playful. It's like, what if you did know? Like it's.
And it's like sort of a game that you play, because it's almost sourcing that wisdom from your higher self.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we initially just go to our logical mind for answers instead of actually dropping in or actually sourcing that wisdom from a higher place. And so that when we say, I don't know, we then can have this, we can sort of externally orient and go back out into the world to look for the answer instead of having to look within ourselves. If I say I don't know, then we go to the coach, or we go to the therapist, or we go to social media, or we go to our friends and ask them for answers. What do you think? Why do you think this is happening? So instead, as a coach, and what I've learned is to redirect that focus back to ourselves again, internally.
Yeah.
So as soon as we say, I don't know, we can then refer back out and look for the answers outside of us. And that gentle reminder, if you did know, you start to source it from a higher level of consciousness, and it's self-sourced from within you versus seeking something outside of yourself. And that's really powerful to get in the habit of practicing. Because you have the answers.
You really do.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's that voice of suppression has become like so loud that it really takes someone, A, caring enough, and B, like willing to be present enough to hold that space to allow me to actually like dig through to find it. Because how many times have you asked me questions and I say, I don't know. It takes me a while to get there. And that's another way that you show me that you care is you'll hold space in that moment to like not let me get away with saying, I don't know.
And maybe we don't, but it doesn't mean you can't figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or that you can't go be resourceful and find the answer. Even if there are things I've asked you to do things you've never done before within this organization.
True.
There are definitely times I've asked you, thrown you into the fire and asked you to do things that you don't know how to do.
Correct. Yeah.
But just because you don't know how doesn't mean you're not going to learn. And that's what I love about it.
It's so interesting you say that because when it comes to work, I have this concept that like I'm like a figure outer. Like everything is figure outable. Like if I don't know how to do something, if the curtains that I really want hung in the dining room fall 6 times, they are going to be hung the 7th. Like I will figure it out. But I don't give myself that same level of like almost like determination, that same drive of let's figure this out. Like Nikki, like internally, let me figure it out. I will just like throw it away a little bit.
Yeah.
In almost like I'm not worthy. Like I haven't built that self-love of being like, this time for you to get to this place is worth it. And you are worth figuring it out, like whatever that may look like. I think I have found so much of my worth as a human in figuring things out for other people. And I mean, how many of us feel that way? I mean, I think more recently I've even come to actually acknowledge that I find my worth, my value in what I can do for others. But like, I can't actually show up for others until I find that value and that worth and that love within myself. So I'm kind of at this turning point right now in my life where I'm kind of turning that level of drive and determination and willingness and presence and turning it back on myself. And I feel like a kid again. Like I'm 30 years old and I'm like meeting myself for the first time. Like me, not Nikki in the workplace, not Nikki in the way she shows up for her friends and family and people that she loves, but like, how do I show up for me? And how do I find that worth and that love within myself?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really powerful to see. I like that is happening before my eyes, before our eyes. Like you and I are both in really beautiful processes. I mean, we're always in process, but that has definitely taken shape and come into the forefront recently, and it's amazing to see and bear witness to. And I learned so much from you every day.
Oh my God.
So I hope this conversation serves as medicine for people to give them a reference point for what they can find in friendship, healing sister wounds, culture that can be created and built in your home, in your business, in your workplace, if you decide that that's what you want, that it is possible to find people that love you and support you for you,
Yeah.
that see you. And I hope it gives people hope, and I hope it lights a fire in other people to start with, you know what I mean? If don't expect other people just to show up, for you. That one of the things I've been really meditating on recently is like, you get what you put out into the world. If you want more love, be more loving.
It's so true.
If you want a friend, be a friend.
Yeah.
If you want somebody to hold space for you, hold space.
Yeah.
If you want somebody to be interested in you, be interested in someone else.
Yeah.
And it will come back.
Yeah.
So
I love what you said about really just offering that level of hope, because there's a time in my life where I really needed to hear this conversation, and I really needed to know that it was okay to be me in all the ways that I am me, and that I can be met in that place and seen and loved and just welcomed.
mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a beautiful testament of what our relationship has taught me. And I would love that everybody listening just holds on to that, whether you feel the brewingness of this happening in your life now, maybe with someone that you've recently met, or someone that you're like, I really feel called to show up for them in a new way, in a new level, and really just hold on to that hope, and that it's exciting to me. Like this relationship between us has really got me excited about all of the opportunity that there is, and all of the relationships that I still haven't even started yet. I think as, adults, we think the people in our life are it.
Yeah.
That's all we're going to ever meet. That's all, we rarely picture our future with like new people, new friends, new community, new
faces of people we've never seen before. Yeah.
And because we've known each other for not even a year yet. And the way that we've been able to move through life and what we've learned from each other. And I would never have, if you would have told me this a year ago, that I'd be sitting here having this conversation and having moved through all the things that I have, like I would have thought you were crazy. Would have thought you were crazy. But yeah, it's possible. And we're a testament of that. And I really hope people see that.
Yeah. And I hope that this is not the last time we see you on the show, because I think people are gonna like this.
Okay,
I really do.
We'll have to see. Yeah.
Well, you guys let us know if this is a conversation, an episode that you enjoyed. I'm confident that it will land in your hearts in the ways that it's been, reflected and shared from ours. And that's our hope. So if you did like this conversation, please let us know. Leave us a rating and review on Apple or Spotify. That is the number one way to say thank you. But also, we want to hear your stories. How are you holding space for yourself, for your friends? How are you creating a culture and an environment within yourself, within your home, within your community that is cultivating and living in alignment with the values that you've decided are most important to you? Because that's how we create a better world. That's how we create better environments to work in. That's how we create better, more healthy family and relational dynamics. That's how the world changes. It's by us changing. They say, be the change you want to see. Go out this week, be coachable, apply something that you've learned today, and maybe share this with a friend. That would be the number one best thing you could do, I think, with the content that we've put out this week. So thank you, my friend, for being here, for being in my life. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad you're here.
All right. I love you. Until next week, you guys. We'll see you next week on the Coachable podcast.